With Demon Slayer Season 3 coming out, we decided to look back on what small little details we could have missed so far. So let's check it out. We'd like to start off with all the openings and endings of the series. Now, some of us tend to skip those because we just want to see what happens with the story already, but there are many little details and even spoilers hidden in the openings and endings of, well, most anime, but we'll stay on topic. So, for the first season, there are a few cool details in the opening. First of all, Tanjiro heading towards the left in the intro. Remember this one, we'll get back to it later, it's important. But then there are also two more cool little details. The coolest one being how the Hashira are slowly revealed as the anime reveals them in the episodes. In the first episode, we only see Giyu in the line of Hashira as the faces of the others are shadowed. But then, as Shinobu is revealed, we get her face, and then upon meeting with all the other Hashira, all their faces have been uncovered. This also means that they made 3 separate intros just for this little detail, and that is dedication. The next little detail in the first intro is how some of the 12 demon moons have already been introduced. Yes, they're just silhouettes, but we can get an idea of what they look like. We could see the 6 of them since the very first episode, without any spoiler warnings too. Alright, now we want to talk about the opening of the second season, but if you haven't watched it yet, there will be spoilers ahead. That said, the second season is Mugen Train. Yes, we know it came out as a movie first, but it's still technically the second season now that we have it as a series. Now, for those of you that remember how it played out, we're going to point out the first bits of this intro. You see how Tanjiro and Rengoku are facing opposite directions? This is already a major spoiler if you put a little bit of thought into it, and it is, as they are parting ways. Now we'll point out the third intro with Tengen now. It is quite similar, but this time both Tengen and Tanjiro are facing the same direction. And we'll get back to that point that we made earlier about Tanjiro facing left in the first intro, remember? Could this mean that the ones facing left get to move forward while the ones facing right are left behind? Left is life and right is death. It was a very interesting detail they put there, and admittedly, a huge spoiler if we noticed it any earlier, but it gives an entirely new meaning when you know what happens. Also, fun fact, while I was researching on YouTube, I found these 3 thumbnails of the Demon Slayer intros posted by Anacrad, and can you see what I'm seeing? The 3 characters in a similar pose, with Tanjiro and Tengen facing left, and Rengoku facing right? Was this intentional? Oh, and as a bonus, notice Tengen's nails? Aren't the colors, green and magenta, just a little bit too similar to the color palette of the demons that he fought in that arc? Either that, or it was random, but still pretty cool. You can also see Tengen's 2 little buff mice guys running just behind Inosuke in the sequence as well. They're just too small, so you tend to miss them. So for the first ending sequence, you can see 8 red spider lilies. Now these flowers usually represent death, loss, the underworld, you know. But why are these flowers important? As the ending begins, we see 8 flowers, the number of members in the Kamado family. 2 of the flowers are in front. We assume that's Tanjiro and Nezuko, while the rest of them are in the back representing their family. But that's not all, because the last bits of the ending has 5 flowers, the number of members we saw die in the very first episode, and they seem to be overlooking the scene with our 4 characters, as if watching over them. Pretty interesting, isn't it? There should technically be 6 flowers if you count their father's death, but he could be alive. He's never appeared as a spirit before the 2 siblings like the rest of the family did. Yes, he has appeared in a memory and in a dream, but not as a spirit yet. Oh, did you know about the Taisho Secrets segment? After the end credits, characters briefly mention the episode and let you in on a secret. These details are sometimes random and sometimes interesting information, and you should check it out if you missed it. Before we move on, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Screen Rant. Come on, it's not gonna hurt you, right? Okay, so we'll move on to the end credits of Mugen Train, and you know what we find? A whole field of spider lilies. It makes sense since the anime itself is based around death, but you know what's foreshadowing? The spider lily field behind Rengoku. Now, as for the third ending, luckily we have no spider lilies here, so phew! What? Well, that's all I got from it, okay? We find out later in the anime that Shinobu and Kanao's sister has passed away. If you look closely at her belongings, Kanae is wearing a particular haori and a butterfly hair accessory. These 2 items are split between the 2 sisters after her death, with Kanao getting the hair accessory and Shinobu getting the butterfly haori that we see her wearing. Okay, so Muzan's supposed daughter is a bit of a mystery. I mean, if that even is his biological daughter. I just assumed he fooled them, giving them a fake name and pretending to be human. But if you look at the ribbon in the little girl's hair, it is very similar to the ribbon in Nezuko's hair. Now, this might be a bit of a stretch because they're just ribbons, but the thing is, they could have been any color at all. However, they're pink, just like Nezuko's. It's hard to say if this little detail means anything at all, or if it was something random, but it is still pretty interesting as it really draws our attention towards the child he is holding. So we do know that the demons in the anime turn into ash when hit by sunlight, but did you know that their blood vanishes as well? In episode 10, after Susamaru dies as the sun is coming up, her blood vanishes as well. It's like every inch of them is being erased, with only the clothing being left behind, because unlike the rest of the body, the clothing isn't part of the demon, unless we're talking about Daki, I guess. This is also a bit of a crazy one, but have you ever noticed Muzan's nails? They look great, that gradient! But it's not only about how good they look, as his nails look really similar to Nezuko's nails, the only difference being the color. While Muzan has blue nails, Nezuko has pink. Not sure if that means anything, but since Nezuko is special, maybe it implies some sort of connection between the two? Like her having powers the same level as Muzan or something. What do you think? So the kimonos are really interesting in Demon Slayer. It isn't that all of them mean anything, but they have a really unique pattern specific to the character, and we'd like to point out a few here. First, Gyu's kimono on his right side is the exact same kimono that Sabito wears. Second, the kimono worn by the swordsmith Hotaru has a pattern that resembles that of a strike being made against iron, alluding to his job as a swordsmith. The kimono that Orokodaki wears also relates to the water-breathing technique he teaches, as it's similar to the water effect we see when the technique is being performed. But that's not all, we still have more. The entire Kamado family wears a checkered pattern. And last, but possibly the most interesting one, is Kagaya's kimono, which reflects the curse or disease on his face. The insults that Gyutaro says to Tanjiro are the same ones that he had to hear as a human. Coward, sad sack, and good for nothing. It seems as if even as a demon, those words that hurt him are something he can't forget and still feels like someone should be punished over them. Or he's giving humans back the same treatment he had to endure. Usually, demons don't recall much of their lives as a human. Gyutaro didn't even remember that Daki's name was Ume, and Rui didn't even remember he had parents. But Gyutaro did remember the insults that were thrown at him. Words, you guys, they cut deep. None of us would have known Inosuke's hidden talent as a demon impressionist until this scene in episode 4 in the Entertainment District arc, where he's trying to describe the demon to Tanjiro using his weird hand movements. The first gesture he does is a callback to Enmu, as the back of Inosuke's hand is closer and facing towards the screen, and we know that the mouth at the back of the hand was a character design particular to Enmu in the series. The next gesture he does resembles a spider, and we know a spider demon, and that's Rui from the first season. Inosuke really did a good job giving us a callback to those demons. Now, if you remember Rengoku's mother, she wasn't in the best shape and passed away really early on. But we'd like to point out her eyes for just a second. We all noticed that they are red, and we don't really need to question it, but there is actually a reason as to why they're red, you see. It was a long-time family tradition in the Rengoku family for women who were about to give birth. They stared into the flames for 2 hours per week. This tradition was called kankagari, and it allowed for the child to inherit the Rengoku signature hair and eye colors. So yeah, it seems the flames sort of just burned her eyeballs. We're all super excited to see what the series has in store for us in Season 3, and we cannot wait! Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and thank you in particular for watching.